Hey, hi, good evening, guys. Hope you guys are doing wonderful. So I'm here, Kalyan, from ScoreLeap. So I'm going to today help you solve some of the hard GMAT sentence correction questions in less than 5 minutes, 55 seconds. All right, great. So before we actually jump into solving any questions, I want to talk about a few things. Very, very important stuff. Sentence correction, as you all know, you have close to 13, 14 questions on the test, right? And then the rest of the questions are here, RC and CR. So RC are again other 13 questions and CR are 9 questions. So you know that invariably you need a good amount of time to solve your RC and CR questions, isn't it? But the most limited resource on your test is your time. Not just time, but the most limited resource is also your energy. All right. So it is very, very important. It's super important that you conserve your time and energy throughout the test so that you know how to optimize your verbal score. Whether you like it or not, it's a verbal score that drives your overall GMAT score, which means you may get a 50 or a 51 in quant, but if your verbal score is not high, then it is quite difficult to cross 700. It's very important that you score at least a 35 or 36 in verbal to see that 700. And if you are already at a good stage, let's say you're at higher levels of 600 and you wanted to score a 740 type of a score, then it becomes all the more important that you get at least a 40 on verbal, right? In order to get 40 on verbal, it's very important that you get good amount of time and your energy so that you can attempt to all the questions, RC, CR, and sentence correction, and not skip the questions towards the end because you ran short of time, which is a sin. Okay, right? You should never run out of time towards the end. Hey, and I say last 4 questions, I couldn't do it because I didn't have enough time to do it. That shouldn't happen. So we need to understand and you know how this exam works and how we need to allocate, just like in a business, right? You have resources and then you decide to allocate those resources, right? So likewise here also, the time and energy are your resource and you need to be perfect in allocating these resources to each one of these question types. We already understand that we need significant amount of time and energy to solve via RC and CR questions. But where are we going to get the time from? We are going to get the time from sentence correction. You understand what I'm saying? Now let me tell you this. Okay. Any sentence correction, any credited sentence correction question on GMAT should be able to answer in about 55 seconds to 60 seconds, right? In the exam, their anxiety, they may be a little spillover. So that's we're talking about around 1 minute, 5 seconds to the cap. But your objective is always to see to it that, can I solve the sentence correction questions in less than a minute, in 55 seconds? The first and the foremost thing is that you need to believe, yes, you can. If you don't believe, then you will not. Very simple. Okay. The first thing happens in the mind. If you believe, yes, you can solve a sentence correction question in less than 55 seconds, you will be able to, because it's quite possible, right? That's the first and the foremost thing. But the question here is, how can I do that? Well, another important thing that you need to understand and embrace is that GMAT is more of a game, right? Just like another computer game, you need to learn to play the game correctly, right? You need to learn to play the game correctly. In order to play the game correctly, you need to understand the game. Remember that. You need to understand the game, right? You need to understand then what are your strengths and weaknesses. And third most important thing, you need to know the rules of the GMAT game. Without knowing the rules, you will lose the game, obviously, right? Is it not, right? Without knowing the rules, you will lose the game. So it is important that you know the rules. And then you also apply a right kind of a strategy. It's like a let's say a warrior or a soldier going into the war, right? So when a soldier goes into the war, hey, I'm all courageous. Can I just walk in and take the bullets? No, right? You need to have an appropriate strategy to win the war, right? That's what we're going to talk about. And hey, we are living in a generation of 10 minutes grocery deliveries, 10 minutes food deliveries, and things like that. Everything is fast, everything is on speed. Fortunately, GMAT sentence correction is also on the speed. But while we are trying to maintain the speed, how do I also maintain the accuracy? How does it happen? In order for that to happen, you need to have alertness, you need to be focused, you need to have super duper concentration. You should be able to identify the elements just like that. We know that GMAT tests you on a limited set of rules. And by this time, if you're all preparing already for the GMAT exam, have done substantial amount of preparation, that's what I'm hoping for. And I'm assuming that the attendees have, or the people who are watching the video have had done substantial amount of preparation already and have an understanding of the rules, right? So we all know that we talk about, around 30, 35 rules all in all, right? And there is a way to identify what rule the GMAT is testing. That's the first and the foremost thing. You need to zoom in. A lot of unnecessary things will be around the question. Now you should ignore that. The main elements should stand out for you, and elements that you can connect to the rules that you know, so that you can eliminate the answer choices faster. Otherwise, you're simply reading the sentence, trying to understand the sentence. You spend a lot of time and energy. And I'm not saying that's the wrong approach. You can still take that approach. That will eat away your time and energy, right? In fact, the more time you spend, what I've realized many times is you get more confused, right? So you need to spend only that amount of time, right? Only that amount of time that's required for you to solve this question and get it right on GMAT. Okay, great. So while doing so, in the pursuit of showing that, I'm going to discuss some of the questions which are essentially from this GMAT Verbal Review 2021, right? They have done the classification of the questions towards the end. So I'm this sentence correction hard questions, they said difficulty level hard by GMAT. Okay, so these are all the sentence correction questions. I have taken some of these questions from this guide. While I will try to put the okay, I see that some of you guys are unable to see. I have not said anything. I mean, if you're able to see my face for now, that's okay. I'm going to display the questions in the next slide. If you're able to see the presentation, I think that's pretty cool right now. That's pretty cool right now, but let's see. Okay, I'm just going to check this connection if there's any problem with that. But yeah, just give me a second. I'll be right back. Yeah, can you guys hear me now? Can you guys hear me now? Can you guys hear me and see me now? A little technical glitch sometimes happens for some very weird reasons, which I don't know too much about it, but yeah, let's try and fix that. Okay, wonderful. Can you guys hear me now and you're able to see me? Awesome. Okay. So sorry for the a little bit of technical glitch here. So what I was saying was we are going to discuss some of the hard questions which are from the GMAT official guide verbal review 2021. So this verbal review 2021 has some classification of the easy, medium, hard questions. I don't know if anybody of you have the hard copy of this book, but they have done this classification towards the end, right? They say the difficulty, hard level questions, right? You can see that. And so these are all the sentence correction question. Almost, I think there are 40 sentence correction questions which GMAT has classified as hard, which means they should be hard questions, right? Because after all, this exam is connected with these guys, so these guys know what they're talking about, isn't it? So I'm going to do some of the questions today, depending upon the time that we have. And then what I'm going to promise you guys is I'm going to create solutions for all those tough questions and put that as a separate videos for you guys. And probably it goes onto the YouTube, or we'll try to share the links with you within our portal. All right. Something that we can do. But let's see how to go about doing it for now. Okay. Sorry. All right. So let's begin to the first one. Let's take a look at this question. It says schistosomiasis, a disease caused by parasitic worm, is prevalent in hot, humid climates, and it has become more widespread as irrigation projects have enlarged the habitat of the freshwater snails that are parasites host to the part of its life cycle. Now, this is a sentence. Now, what would be a line of action? What would be your reaction to this kind of a question immediately? I will immediately jump into the answer choices. Okay. Now remember, identification of the elements is the most important thing. You should identify the elements faster. You know what stands for me as I look into this particular question, as I go to the answer choices, then what should stand for you is which. You see this guy which here, right? Now, according to the rule of which, GMAT says that there should be a comma in front of which, or there should be a preposition in front of which. One of these two things should be there. Either there should be a comma or there should be a preposition in front of which, right? If there is no preposition or if there is no comma, which is coming like this individually without any preposition or without any comma in front of it, right? There is no preposition or there is no comma here, is it not? Such usage is always wrong. Boom, you knock off A, B, and C straight, which will take what? 5 seconds. 5 seconds is out. Don't try to read the answer choice. One of the things that I see a lot of students, they try to read the answer choice horizontally, right? And try to see whether it makes sense or try to understand it. This eats away your time. Don't do that. Focus on the elements to stand out for you. Okay, elements should stand out for you, right? For that, as I said, you need to know what elements, correct? You need to know what elements. So that's where I'm sure some of you must have gone through my videos on the portal. I've spoken about a wide variety of rules that are commonly tested on GMAT. If you have not already, please go through those rules. Okay, but you need to know the rules. They have to be very handy, just on the top of your fingertips, and you know it, boom, out. Okay, right? So CD and D is gone. If you remember, if this stands out for you, it'll hardly take 10 seconds for you to knock off CD and D straight, right? Now between A and B, again, what is the element between A and B I'll be talking about here? Again, between A and B, we just have what? We have got here, 1 second. We got here it's here, and we got there here, right? It's and there. Now, what is that we're talking about? We're talking about parasite. Parasites we're talking about, which is clearly singular. So I can't have there. So it should be is. Hence, we knock off answer choice. A second. I'm just trying to position my the board here. Okay. So we can knock off answer choice B. Sorry. Therefore, it should be your A as the right answer. Right. I don't know what happened to this here again. Okay, so that's it. That's it. So we are talking about two elements here, right? One is which, and two is it's and there. We are talking about parasites, which is clearly singular. So therefore, their life cycle. Whose life cycle? Parasites. That should be A. So A is the correct answer. I don't know why it is showing that this. Yes, A is the correct answer. B, we knock it off. Right? So these are the two elements. If you can identify, then it will become in what, 40 seconds, 50 seconds you can do it. Otherwise, you try to read it and understand. You kind of waste unnecessary time trying to see, what sounds good, tastes good, smells good. All right, great. Let's take a look at one more question and see how to go about doing it. Okay, and then 1 second. Okay, now let's go to the next one. That is going to be I have to clear these things for me to go to the next slide. The next slide here, right? Let's take a look at the next question. It says, industry analysts said that the recent rise in the fuel prices may be an early signal of the possibility of gasoline and heating oil prices staying higher than usually through the end of the year. Again, very good question here, right? So when I look at this particular question, you know what should stand out for me immediately? You know what should stand out for me immediately? If the sentence already says this, the sentence here already says maybe. You see, the sentence already uses the word maybe, is it not? If the sentence already uses the word maybe, why do you need possibility again? Possibility not required, right? A, B, and C is gone because of redundancy. You see that? Redundancy is one of the most important error that GMAT keeps testing you. When you already have maybe, you really don't have to have possibility. So knock up A, B, and C straight. See, again, attention, alertness. If you're alert, you see this faster. Else, we are unnecessarily trying to wander around. What is that we are looking at? That's the first thing, is out. See that? Correct? Now it is only between D and E. Now D and E, when you do the vertical comparison, you see a couple of things. One thing that essentially stand out for me is here. Here, if you notice, I've got usually here, you see, usually, and here I've got usually and then usual. In answer choice D, I've got usual, usually are, and usual I've got in answer choice E, right? This portion we're talking about. So usual, higher than usual, what? Prices, is it not? And prices is basically a noun. So I cannot use usually, is it not? Using usually would obviously be incorrect. Correct? No, usually is an adverb. Usual is an adjective. So we cannot have usually, it should be usually. Talking about prices, right? Prices are clearly nouns. So we need to have adjective and not adverb. See, the D is gone. So E is the answer. That's it. You see that? Focus on the elements. If you focus on the elements, you'll get it right. You'll get it right. Just like that. It's not that otherwise you can't do it, but it'll just take more time. The idea is, can I do it in 55 seconds? Don't you think so? If you can identify these elements faster, you can. It might look super easy now when I'm saying this to you guys, right? But when you start doing it, you may like, what is that I'm looking for, right? So if you're alert, these elements will stand out for you. See, I'm not really worried about the rest of all the sentence or rest of all the answer choices. Just by focusing on a few elements, we were able to eliminate the wrong answer choices and arrive at the right thing. Now, well, I'm not saying that every single question you will be able to answer, but out of 13 questions, I can bet you that you will be able to answer 11 questions just like that. 2 questions, it's okay. Keep them aside. You need, out of, if you're getting 13 questions, you need 10 questions, right? If you're getting 14 questions, you need 11 questions right in sentence correction to go to verse 40, right? And you can still hit a score of 44 even if you get a couple of sentence correction questions wrong. A 44 is an amazing score, isn't it? 40 itself is a great score, a fantabulous score. You get a 40 in verbal with a 50 in quant, you have your 730, 740 comfortably, which is higher than any of the top business schools GMAT average. Isn't it? Correct? No, I'm sure, I know. I mean, there are people who are looking at, hey, I need a 770, 780. Great, wonderful. You first hit that 730, then you come to me, I'll show you how to go to 770. But without even crossing 700, talking about 770 becomes meaningless, isn't it? Right? One step at a time. You hit that 730 first, and then I'll show you how to make that small leap from 730 to 770. But if you're struggling at 650, 640 and talking about 770, it will not make sense to you because you will still get stuck there. You are repeating the same kind of mistakes and you will get still stuck there, and you're kind of wandering all around trying to do a whole bunch of things which will not take you into 700 zone. You come to 730 zone, you come back to me, then I'll show you how to go from 730 to 770, which means how to go from V38, 39 to V44. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, a calibration would be required at that point in time. I'll tell you what that calibration is, but first move past. Remember, understand this basic logic, which I always feel that people miss out. They always say, hey, I want to do tough questions. I want to do tough questions. Boss, if you're not getting easy questions right, you will never see tough questions. First, focus on the question that you can get them, right? Ridiculously tough question, boss. Get a smarter question correct first, and then we'll talk about ridiculously tough question. And you get 1 or 2 of those questions, but are you able to do comfortably the remaining 10, 11 questions? That's a focus. You understand? Okay, all right. Now let's try to do one more question. Okay. I'm trying to clear my drawings here, otherwise I cannot go to the next page. I'm going to the next page from here. All right. So this is another question. Amazing question. Look at the sentence length. That is what it's like. Looks like a small CR question. A sentence correction looks like a small CR question. Around 1900, fishermen in what is Shakespeare Bay area landed more than 17 million pounds of shad in a single year. But by 1920, overfishing and the proliferation of bill dams and culverts that have blocked the shad migration up their spanning streams had reduced the landings to less than 4 million pounds. See, that's such a big question. Now, what happens generally, what we tend to do is like, whoa, wait a minute, what is it trying to say? Let me read it and again understand the story, right? When you try to do that, you will take time. Don't do that. First, try to knock off. Jump to the answer choices and see how many other answer choices you can knock off. We will use the sentence if we need the help of the sentence. Sentence is more of a helper. Okay? Sentence is more of a helper. First, go to the answer choice and see if we can eliminate the answer choices, some of the answer choices quickly. Right? And then increase our probability of getting right. Now, with 5 answer choices, our probability of getting right is only 20%. Even if you can eliminate 2 answer choices just like that, you increase your probability 33%. And if you can eliminate 3 answer choices, you increase your probability of success to 50%, right? So let's see if we can do that quickly, right? So if you look at the answer choices here, what do I have? Sorry. If you look at the answer choices here, what do I have? You know, what stands out for me immediately is this guy having. You see, having. I know if you have already gone through the verb tenses videos on the ScoreLeap, you have already learned that having signifies present perfect continuous, right? Having signifies present perfect continuous. And we also learned that in those videos, present perfect continuous is almost always wrong, except 3 cases. Remember that? Okay, except 3 cases. One, we talk about when we are talking about parallelism. When there is a parallelism, if the first part of the sentence is about having, the second part should also have having to satisfy the parallelism. Or in case of idioms, and then the third one, where is more in case of more of tenses, right? So here we don't have any such thing. Obviously, there is no clear-cut parallelism, there is no idiom, and there is no tense. The sentence is clearly past tense. We're talking about 1900s here, right? So can I eliminate answer choices D and E straight? So I'm going to knock off answer choices D and answer choice E. Again, this thing is pretty weird. Hold on. Okay, answer choice D and E is straightforward, gone for us, right? And then what do we have? So D and E both are gone. I don't know why it is doing like this. I'm trying to. Let us see if I don't use my pen. Okay, so D and E are gone. Yeah. So our answer choices D and E are gone from here. And then we are left with A, B, and C, right? In A, B, and C, you guys see this thing, lower. We need to use when we are comparing two items, right? Are we comparing two items here? We are not comparing two items. Remember, lower is a comparative word. We're not comparing two items here. So lower is obviously wrong, correct? Now A and B. A and B, now what stands for standard? It says have block. Get this sentence is past tense clearly. We are talking about 1920, 1900. It's a hardcore past tense sentence, and we had reduced all past tense. So we can't use have blocked out B. See? Focus on the elements, basic elements, boom. You got an answer just like that without really struggling too much. You understand? Okay, is that clear? Great. And then okay, then let's try to see one more question based on this and see how to go about doing it. And I'm just going to clear this drawings here so that I can go to the next page. I know the systems are pretty slow here for some weird reason. I know why that's happening, but clear all my drawings, and then okay, I don't know why it is not going to the next page. I'm just trying to. Okay, now I'm just going to go to the next page. Okay, let's take a look at another. Look at gigantic kind of a question. Look at this question again. It looks so gigantic, right? You know, it doesn't look like we can do this question in like what 55 seconds or a minute, right? We're like, oh my god. By the time we actually read and understand the sentence itself, is going to be so much. It's going to take so much of a time and energy, right? So let us see how to go about doing this question. Okay, let's see that. Which is created in 1985, created in 1945 to reduce poverty and stabilize foreign currency market. The World Bank and the International Monetary Fund have, according to some critics, continually struggled to meet the expectations of the major shareholders, hyphen a group comprising many of the world's rich nations, hyphen, but neglected. Now this hyphen guy, this hyphen guy is, it's a very cunning guy. I mean, like, this hyphen guy is kind of distracts us, like, oh my God, is there a rule with respect to that? No rule. GMAT is not testing you any kind of hyphen rule, right? It's just talking about who are the shareholders. This whole thing is like kind of a, I don't want to use a word modifier, but it's just trying to explain who are the major shareholders. We're talking about a group comprising of many world's richest nations. Throw that out. Okay, even if we don't have to have that, right? So that hyphen, ignore it completely. GMAT won't test you on hyphens at all. So ignore that. Okay. Now, how is that we're going to do about this sentence? Let's take a look at this. It's a on the face of it, it may look very difficult, but it's actually easy question, right? You see, it says that they continually struggled, according to some critics, in IMF International Monetary Fund, the World Bank and IMF have continually struggled, okay, to meet the expectations of the major shareholders, but neglected, struggled, neglected, parallel. We'll keep this guy. Struggled, neglecting, and that off. What off? Not required. All right, neglecting, that's wrong. All right, so that is gone. Neglecting, struggled is not parallel. B is gone. Again, struggled but neglected. This is okay. For now, I'll keep it. I'll come back to it later. Again, had to struggle and neglecting the top. Not parallel, obviously. Out. Again, struggled and neglecting. Out. Right? Don't put too much. If you don't have to eliminate answer choices linearly. Right? If you're not sure, keep it. Maybe that's a correct answer. You always come back to the second round of elimination. You really don't have to do the elimination linearly. You can always come back. Okay, you should know that. Right? Now we are left with A and C. Between A and C, which one is wrong and why? Again, remember I said that off, what off? Right? That off their intended. No, we are talking about neglected, their intended beneficiaries. Right? And the developing word. We don't need this that off. That off is not referring to anything. So therefore, C is gone, hence A is the right answer. You see that? It may look so thick, such a long paragraph kind of a sentence. The very look of it sometimes will even scare us. Correct? No? But if you focus on the right elements, right? If you can catch hold of the threads, you can solve it in 55 seconds. But the same question can also take 1.5 minutes if you spend too much of time there. You get what I'm trying to say? Very, very important. Okay, great. If you want to quickly write this down, you can write it down. These are all the questions. 1 second. Right. Okay. Let's do one more question and see how can we do it in less than 45 seconds. But again, as I said, it's a rules. You need to know the rules. If you don't know the rules, then this kind of a precision won't happen. It's very, very important that you know those rules. Knowing rules is important. Okay. So knowing rules is very important. If I know the rules, that's when you can do it faster. If I don't know the rules, then I'll take a lot of time. Right? Okay, let's take a look at another question here. I have to clear these things. Drawings, clear all my drawings. Okay, so let's see how to do this question. Again, very interesting question. It says, once numbering in the millions worldwide, it is estimated that the wolf has declined to 200,057 countries. And then some 11,000 of them to be found in the lower 48 United States and Alaska, whatever. Right? Now go to the answer choices. Such a beautiful question it is. Again, it says it's estimated that the wolf is estimated, and then we have wolves. You see, there's a wolf and a wolves. Now, how do I decide? Wolf has declined. Okay, of course, in B, it says that the wolf is estimated to have declined. We can knock off based on that. And then C says wolf has declined, but the wolves have declined. But again, that's not exactly helping us. But if you look at the, what do I say? The sentence, you see this word them here. Them is plural. So we are talking about wolves, not wolf. So can you knock off wolf, wolf, and wolf here? A, B, and C, 3 are gone. Correct. With simple focus, you will be able to do that, right? We are talking about so many number of wolves, right? So it is not wolf, it is wolves. That's gone. Now you are left with a D and E. Wolves have declined to an estimate of 200,000 to an estimated 200,000 in 57 countries with approximately. Now, first of all, I want to focus on this. The first part of the sentence says wolves have declined to an estimate of 200,000 to an estimate. No, what is declined is not the estimate. What is declined is the number of wolves have declined. Correct? So it's a number that has declined. The population, wolf population has declined. So it declined to this number. It declined to this number. Is it not? It declined to this number, right? So it's not estimate of, it would be incorrect. So therefore, we knock off answer choice D. So E would be the correct answer, right? That's one way to quickly look at it. And again, this with approximately, no, we don't have to say with approximately. With is completely unnecessary here. I have no role to play. I know what is it even trying to do. This zero role to play. Throw that off, right? Estimated 200,000, 57 countries. Some of them to be found in the lower whatever United States. Okay, like that. All right. So then let us see. We have a couple of more questions to look into it. So let's see how to go about doing those. Some of more questions. So I'm going to clear these drawings here quickly. Clear my drawings and then go into the next question here, right? Okay, early administrative decisions in China Ming Dynasty eventually caused a drastic fall in tax revenues, a reduction in military preparedness, the collapse of the currency system, and failed to make sufficient investment in vital transportation infrastructure. Looks like there are too many commas, which means that there can be a possibility of parallelism. As you know, let's see where is the list. There is an and here. Oops, sorry. There is an and here. Do we need the and there or somewhere else? There is an and here also, right? So let's take a look at this. Now, what is happening here? Focus, zoom in and focus. Don't try to read the answer choices and understand the answer choices. Okay, focus on the elements. Now, let's take a look at it. What caused what? Caused a drastic fall or reduction. Looks like these are all nouns. You see that? A drastic fall or reduction, the collapse. These are all like nouns, right? And then it says failed, failing, failed, failing. These are all verbs. I cannot have verbs in the list. I have to have a noun only. Correct? Just based on that logic, I could actually knock off all the guys. Just based on that logic, because these are four things that happened. There was a drastic fall, there was a reduction, there was the collapse, and there should be a failure technically, right? So they use this and here, and the collapse of current system as well as a failure. Failure is a noun. The collapse, noun. Drastic fall, noun. A reduction, again a noun. You understand what I'm saying? Right? The list. If we can identify that, things will become zoom. How much time will it take? It will take like 25-30 seconds, right? But if you don't identify that, that's where it's going to take time, and you may get very easily confused. Should I put an and here, or should I put an and here, and then trying to read and trying to make sense out of it, right? Again, this is a hard question according to the GMAT, not according to me. I'm not classifying this as a hard question at all. I'm classifying, the GMAT has classified. Okay, who are we to classify? Correct? No? Who are we to classify? It's the GMAT. GMAT is the boss. GMAT is the boss. You understand what I'm saying? GMAT is the boss, and they will not try to say something that they don't mean. You understand? Right? A lot of students do go wrong in this question as well. I've seen many students going wrong. At least almost out of 10, 5 people go wrong comfortably, right? And that's which means that it's a 50 percentile kind of a question, which is more of a difficult question for sure. Is it not? Okay, cool. So I hope you got this. But if you focus on that element, it becomes very easy rather than focusing on the entire sentence and trying to read and say whether it is making sense. I'm not saying it is wrong. People who can do that, please go and do it as long as you know how to manage your time. But this is a strategy and approach. This is not a shortcut. I'm not giving you a shortcut, or I'm not giving you some magic kind of a thing. There is no magic, there is no shortcut. In order to do this, you need to have focus, concentration, alertness. Very difficult to attain. It's not possible. Very few people can get that kind of alertness and focus. You understand? And that's when you can see what you need to see quickly, and then arrive at the correct answer choice in less than 60 seconds, right? If alertness is not there, then you are reading and understanding and saying how it is, constructing it, dismantling it, whole bunch of things, right? We don't want to do so much stuff here. Okay, great. Then I'm going to clear these drawings. Let's go to another question here. One more interesting question, actually. I'm just looking at the time to see whether we have good amount of time, but I'm going slow or fast. Okay, now this is an interesting question again. Carbon dioxide, sorry, there's a space is not required here. Anyway, which traps heat in the atmosphere and helps regulate the planet's surface temperatures, constantly being exchanged between the atmosphere on the one hand and the oceans and terrestrial planets on the. There was one student who said, Kalyan, there is a being in it, so this is definitely wrong. This is not even a correct question. Don't do that, right? We are focusing more on the answer choices. Sorry. Okay. Focus on the answer choices. Most focus goes on the answer choices. Sentence is more of a helper. As and when we require the help from the sentence, we'll take help from the sentence. But otherwise, focus on the answer choices. Let's take a look at it. It says exchanged between the atmosphere on one hand, oceans and terrestrial planets on the other. Looks okay. We'll keep it for now. Exchange. Now focus on this. Now they use the word between X and Y. That's a correct idiom, right? Between X and Y, that's a correct idiom. First thing, we got to use between X and Y for two things. But when I look at the answer choices, we got between here and here, between here, with here. Between and with is definitely wrong. You can knock it off. And then here answer choice D and E used among. For two things, among is incorrect. Okay, another one hand, other hand, we're talking about two things. Two things is among is incorrect. Among is for many things, right? Between X and Y, and then among many things. Okay, like that. So D and D is gone straight. Now just between A and B. You see, you have to. This has to stand out for you. If this element stands out for you, then it becomes easier. If it doesn't stand out for you, then you will struggle. You will take more time. Idea is to do it in 55 seconds. So I can use that extra time for reading comprehension, first critical reasoning, because there we need time. We need a little bit more time than a minute to answer the question. Correct? No? And every second matters. Every single second matters on the test. Okay? Right? Every single second, all seconds, 10, 20, 20 seconds put together, 5 questions, you have 1 minute there. So remember, okay, very, 1.5 minutes there. Very, very important. Okay. Perfect. Then between A and B. Now between A and B, which one is wrong here? If you notice here, what is that we are trying to say between A and B again? In A, I've got exchange between the atmosphere on one hand and ocean terrestrial planets on the other hand. That is correct. But if you look at the answer choice B, it says exchange on one hand between the atmosphere and the ocean's terrestrial panels on the other. No, that's not parallel, right? Here they are using on one hand here and on the other towards the end, which is obviously not parallel. So knock off B. So A is the answer, right? So these are the subtle elements that you should be focusing on. If you focus on these elements, things will become much more easier and simpler. Okay, right? Okay, so let's try to do one more question. I don't know how many more questions are there, but let's see if I can do some more questions. I do have a few more minutes of time. Let's see if I can do some more questions. Okay, first I'm going to clear these drawings, all my drawings, and then I'm going to go to the next page. Okay, this is another good question. Again, the rules are very important. Okay, without rules, nothing will happen. If I am not very clear about the grammar rules, I don't say grammar rules, I'd say GMAT rules, right? GMAT tests you on certain things. You have to get very close and very familiar to GMAT. It's not that you know grammar, you can answer all the questions, or it's not that you come from a native English speaking background, you can answer all the questions. No, it doesn't work out like that. GMAT is a very different kind of an exam. It's like a game, right? You need to understand the GMAT. You need to understand the rules of the GMAT game, right? If you understand that, things can become that much simpler, right? But the moment you try to say, no, I want to show my English skills, I want to show my math skills, that's where it becomes difficult. Where you could have easily got a 720, 730, you skip and, stay in that 660, 670 zone, right? So it's a matter of a couple of 2-3 questions at a correct level, boom, you are into 700s, right? And it really hurts. After preparing so much, we end up at 660, 670. I'm not saying that 710, 720 thing, right? It's just a matter of 2-3 things, right? And then that matters a lot. Okay, that matters a lot. Okay, competitiveness in B schools has increased significantly over the last 2 years, right? Particularly this year, it has become too competitive. Even some of the schools which are in the mid-level ranking, like ranking of 35, 40, also demanding a very high GMAT scores, right? Because the averages have to be good, so they are really demanding a high GMAT scores. The higher the score, the better it is. While I'm not saying that GMAT is the only component that is going to help you get an admission, but GMAT is one of the important components, right? One of the important components is it is imperative that you are at least 20-30 points above the school's average, right? If you are below school's average and then trying to apply, you're really taking a bet. Okay, you're really taking a bet. Of course, your profile has to be very strong to compensate for that loss. But another thing is, if your academics are not that great, it is important that your GMAT score is very high and you show that your academic rigor here, you're ready for the rigorous program, MBA rigorous program, the university. They take this score very seriously, guys. Okay, so don't take it lightly, right? And it's just a matter of, and again, as I said, don't try to do a blind preparation. It doesn't take you anywhere, right? A random preparation gives you a random score. A strategic approach, know your enemy better, know the GMAT better, right? Based on that, set your strategy, right? In the war zone, you want to win over enemy, you need to know the enemy, right? Now, just because you are courageous, just because you have valor, doesn't mean to say that you're going to win the war. You need to know your enemy. You need to know your enemy's strengths and weaknesses. When you do, the war becomes one-sided, correct? And you will win the war. Is it not? Okay, right. Let's see how to do this guy here. Again, government official announced the restrictions on the use of water would continue because no appreciative increase in the level of the river resulted from blah, blah, blah. Intermittent showers that had fallen throughout the area the day before. Wow, that's a very good sentence. Now look at the answer choices. So what do we got here? So we got this looks like a tense question, right? This looks like a tense question. So reverse level had, and reverse level had, and the level of the river. Well, I can do this question in a couple of ways. One thing that can stand out for me is like reverse level. Reverse, it doesn't possess a level. So I could probably knock off B, C. Yeah, B and C is gone because of that reason, right? I'm still left with A, D, and E. So when you're looking at A, D, and E, what we got here? Now, what is that we are saying? Now, let's take a look at government officials announced that. Announced about what? Announced about restrictions. So we need to have restrictions and not using water, right? So that is gone. Again, being is also there. So that is gone. So just put in A and A. Restrictions on the use of water would continue because no appreciative increase in the level of the river had. So this guy used had resulted. Now let us see whether the sentence satisfies the rules of past perfect, because that is the only difference between A and D, right? So for past perfect, you need to have two actions, two completed actions. Action should be in sequence. They should be sequential action, and your had should ideally be with the earlier action. So you see this announced and then resulted. So it was because no appreciative increase in the level of the river resulted. So this is the action which has happened first. This is the first action, right? And announced and then later announced. This is the second action, right? If you have again gone through the verb tense rules, you know that had should go with the first action, earlier action, that is resulted. So had comes with resulted, so we can keep D, and A you can knock it off. So D would be the closest answer possible. Okay, this is the way that you can do it. Or you can start up with the tenses itself. You could have knocked off A, B, and E straight and just focus on C and D. Again, between C and D, you could have eliminated for the same reason, like reverse level is incorrect. Or you could say we need restrictions. Announce that restrictions on the use of water is what would continue, right? So that's what it is. It's not the use of water would continue to be restricted. No, that will also look kind of a passive kind of a sentence. So restrictions on the use of water would continue, right? Make sense? So like that. So you have to believe in it. If you believe it, you will see. If you don't believe it, you will not see. Okay, it all happens in the mind first. Okay, if you believe this is possible, then yes, it is possible. If you believe it is not possible, then it is not possible. It is that simple. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, great. Now, I think there's a couple of more questions out there. I'm going to look at those questions. Let's see. Oh wow, quite a good number of questions. So let's see. Okay, bluegrass musician Bill Monroe, whose repetitive views on musical collaboration, vocal style were influential on generations of bluegrass artists, was also an inspiration to many musicians that included Elvis Presley and Sherry Gracia, whose music differed significantly from his own. Well, if you go to the answer choices, it starts with saying were influential. It starts with saying were influential and were influential and we got were influential, influence, was influential, was influential, were an influence. So basically, what is that? This verb should be referring to? Are we trying to refer to the musician, or are we talking about his repertory, views on musical collaboration, vocal style? That gives a kind of a verb confusion, right? So let's get rid of all those nonsense. Instead, we can directly say influence generation of bluegrass artists. Also inspired. See, that's so perfect, right? Okay, influenced and inspired. So these are two things that they did. Instead of saying was also inspiration, all the stuff, also inspired, influenced, inspired. That's it. So B would be a straightforward answer. Okay, so I think there's a time constraint. I have another class right after this, so I will try to create the solutions for this, the rest of the questions, and upload it also on the portal. See, that's so perfect. right? Okay, influenced and inspired. So these are two things that they did. Instead of saying was also inspiration, all the stuff. Also inspired, influenced, inspired. That's it. So it would be a straightforward answer. Okay, so I think there's a time constraint. I have another class right after this. So I will try to create the solutions for this, the rest of the questions and upload it on the portal. That's right. Okay, influenced and inspired. So these are two things that they did. Instead of saying was also inspiration, all the stuff. Also inspired, influenced, inspired. That's it. So you would be a straightforward answer. Okay, so I think there's a time constraint. I have another class right after this. So I will try to create the solutions for this, the rest of the questions on the portal. That's right. Thank you so much.